And the zoning enforcement officer, the building superintendent in his place, and clerk to the zoning board tonight will be Mr. Frank Gazzaro. I would ask before the meeting gets started that if you have a cell phone or electronic device, either shut it off or silence it so it doesn't become a problem for the hearing of the board members. If you need to use a cell phone, I would appreciate if you'd step out in the hall to do that. The order that we will present tonight is, I will call each petition. The petitioner that is going to be presenting to the board will come up to the lectern and present the case to the board. Once that has been completed, I will then open it up for discussion from board members, which will allow the board members to ask the petitioner any questions relative to what they just heard from the petitioner. Following that, I will close that portion of the hearing. I will open it up for public discussion. And I will ask anyone who may be here tonight to speak in favor of a petition to speak first. When we have completed that, I will close that portion of the hearing. Then I will open it up for anyone who may be here to speak in opposition. Once we have completed that, I will close that portion of the hearing and then open it up for discussion from any elected officials in the room that may be interested or want to be heard on the petition. I will then read or reference any emails that have come in relative to the case. Following that, I will close the public deliberation. At that point, public deliberation of the case is completed. I will now open deliberation from the board members. This is where the board members among ourselves will discuss the case, and one board member will make a motion to grant, and from there we will take a vote. Now, if there are 5 members voting, if there are 5 affirmative votes, the petition will be granted. If there are 4 affirmative votes and 1 negative vote, the petition will be granted. If it's a 3-2 vote, the petition will be denied. So it requires 4 affirmative votes for a petition to pass. Once we have voted, the clerk will tell me what the vote is. I will announce the vote, and I will let you know that either the petition has been granted or the petition has been denied. Prior to the start of our hearing tonight, there is an opportunity for anybody or any petitioner who is on the agenda to recuse themselves from the hearing. And we have had several tonight that have done that. And I'll read the cases that will not be heard tonight. Before I do that, is there anyone in the room that would want to recuse themselves from hearing tonight? Everybody wants to go forward with the hearings that you're here for? Okay. So the following cases have been withdrawn, and they will not be heard tonight, and they will be rescheduled at some future date, and they will be re-advertised. The first one is the petition of New Heights of Mass, LLC, 1278 Bedford Street, Bridgewater, Mass, to seek a finding and determination that its current use constitutes a legal pre-existing non-conforming use that predates the zoning enactment of December 1967 and continues to date. The current use is not substantially greater than the previous use. Alternatively, the applicant seeks a variance in an R1C and commercial zone located at Howard Street and Claremont Avenue. That case has been withdrawn. It will not be heard. The second case that has been withdrawn is the petition of Gary Epstein and Robert Cohen, 1208 Belmont Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 4, Section 2732 to construct a 42-unit, 1- and 2-bedroom residence with 62 parking spaces in a C5 zone located at 1208 Belmont Street. That case will not be heard tonight. The third one is the petition of Douglas A. King, 115 Main Street, Northeastern Mass, for a variance from Section 2710, Table 2, Section 2732, and Section 2757, Subsection 2, if required, to renovate an existing structure into a 2-unit apartment building use and to construct a 10-unit apartment building lacking in side yard setback with insufficient floor ratio and to operate a parking lot less than 10 feet from a proposed medical facility in a C5 zone located at 48 North Pearl Street. That case will not be heard tonight. Okay, the first case in tonight's hearing is a request for an extension of a previously granted variance. And I have a letter that has come to me from Attorney John Creedon. I hereby request a 6-month extension on the notice of variance allowed on September 18th, 2019 by your board for David Lynch, owner of 1200 Poppy LLC, in regard to the above referenced property. Due to the country shutdown caused by COVID, this project is moving much slower than normal. We have had many things to keep this moving, and Planning Board, Rob May understands, they have given us a 2-year extension. Therefore, we respectfully request that this be officially extended for 6 months. Attorney Creedon, you here?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the members of the board and alternates and prospective members. Attorney Jay Creedon, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton. As the chairman has indicated, we're looking, because of COVID, to get a 6-month extension on the 2 variances that were allowed on this big bookend project, 5 Terminal Place, which is across from Keith Park at South Montello Street, and the other end of the bookend city project is on West Chestnut Street, is known as Plot 79. It's where Lynch's Towing is. Again, these variances were granted. The building department has indicated that the variances have been exercised, but because of COVID, nobody could get anybody to do the testings, and we have since appeared before the planning board. They granted a 2-year extension because there's stuff that has to be done before the planning board as concerns engineering and grading and a whole bunch of other things. But in the short of it all, again, they were unanimously granted, and I'm asking that it be extended because they could not get materials, engineers, lawyers, anybody to do anything during that period. The governor, of course, extended the period, saying that they did not terminate what would have been a termination date. So I'm asking this board to endorse the 6-month extension on the variances. Thank you.
So for the board members, we can grant a one-time 6-month extension. If nothing has been done within 6 months, they have to reapply and start the whole process all over again. So I would entertain
Motion to grant. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Leanis.
Yes.
I'm going to mess this up. Elondo Spinola.
Yes.
James Sweeney.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 noes.
Thank you, members of the board.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The 6-month extension is granted. Thank you. Monica, this next one is all part of the one we just took, right? This one here? Yeah, is all part of that. Good, okay. All right, petition number 2230, the petition of Maria Andre, 25 Hardy Avenue, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from front and side yard setback requirements to construct a wraparound porch in an R1C zone located 25 Hardy Avenue. Please identify yourself to the clerk.
Te translate para mim? Não, nunca te pode. Se será que isso aí na rua, nunca sei se vai usar batom.
You need an interpreter?
Pode ver.
Yeah, I put it in his.
Or Cristiano Marcelino.
Okay, what you need to do is explain to the board what you intend to do. You're asking for a variance because you're too close to the street and too close to the sideline. You just need to explain to us what the problem is with that.
Falei para Modi que minha mãe está doente. Ela cresceu naquela parte, tem sol, e nem que eu tenho filho, e o que está também para lá, e também invitando a água que está subindo no basement.
Say because his mom is too old, he decides to make the gate in the front, so his kid he can play down there. That's why I try to make. He has to make one, or the water going through to the old one. That's why I want to take that one off, to make the big one.
Okay, so the porch that's there now, you're going to remove that porch and build a new porch.
Yes.
And the porch that you're showing on the plan goes across the front of the house and then down the side of the house a little bit.
If I can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, the porch you're going to put on comes across the front of the house and then down the side of the house. Is that correct?
Simple. To ficar na lado, tempo que luto lá, okay?
Sim.
Yes.
Okay, so according to the zoning rules and regulations, you need 30 feet from the front of the house to the street. You have 20.7 feet. It's a unique situation that your house is probably 100 years old. It's not a new house. The house is where it is because it's been there for all those years, correct?
If I can have the same house, or
Como de água está sumindo no basement, mas o problema é que ele que tem, nunca invita, como todo contrator que vai para fazer deck lá, tem invita água lá naquele deck.
say I got a problem in the basement, all the water going to the basement. All the people has to do that, say I gotta make the new one, take that one off to make the new one. To take the old one out so the water can stop to go to the basement.
Okay, so this is going to help eliminate a water problem that you have in the
Yes.
basement?
Yes.
Okay. It would appear, is that all of your testimony? You're done with that?
If it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure most of the board members went and took a look at the situation, and the house is what it is. There is a section 2717 subsection 3 that allows this setback if it's in conformance with the setback on houses which are to the left and to the right of that particular house. So it's not beyond what other dwellings have left and right. So just as a point of information. All right. I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition to this? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That closes the public hearing. I'm now going to open it up for discussion among the board members. Board members, I'm sure you've been there to look at this. What do you think?
Seems like it's a similar request and in line with what's actually directly across the street. I would agree.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would have a negative effect.
You're going to have to speak a little louder.
It doesn't seem like it will have a dramatic negative effect to the character of the neighborhood or anything like that to me.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's extending any further than that setback there towards the driveway.
I can't hear you
I'm
speak.
sorry. It doesn't seem like it's going past, any further than the side there by the driveway.
No, it's not.
It's not extending any further than that, so.
And the foundation, as we know, can create a hardship on this thing too, so I think,
With the age, yeah, with the age of the property, the foundation's most likely very porous.
yeah, they said that this hopefully will solve a water problem that they got on the front of the house, so.
I'd make a motion to grant.
Second.
A motion. Somebody make a
I
motion?
made a
can't
motion
hear.
to grant.
Motion has been made. Somebody second it?
Yep.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Leanis,
Yes,
Yolando Spinola,
Yes.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 noes.
All right, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted, so you can build the porch.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck. The next petition is 2231, Sign Here Investments, LLC, care of Philip Nazrella Esquire, 1063 North Main Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance from Section 2725, Table 27-9, subsection R1C, to construct a single-family dwelling on Milton Street containing 8,555 square feet, together with a variance for dimensional relief from the rear yard, side yard setbacks in an R1C zone located at 432 Crescent Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Philip Nazrella representing Mr. Jose Maldonado. Over here with me this evening is Mr. Scott Farrier from J.K. Holmgren Engineering. The application this evening is to allow the construction of a single-family dwelling on the corner of Henry and Milton Street in Brockton on the east side. This is a very unique lot in that it has a certain oddity to its shape. It's somewhat of an L shape with the house in the middle. It's about, the whole lot is approximately 26,000 square feet. And before I turn it over to Mr. Farrier, I'd just like to make a couple of notes. This lot, somewhat like the prior lot you just looked at, is an old lot, an old structure. The house was built in 1859, just after the Civil War. And I'll take the leap of making a surmise as to why the house is located in this particular area. This is the lot, and we have the existing house here. Back in 1859, many of the homes always had extra land on both sides, some for the pasture of their animals and others for their own garden. I have no doubt this was probably similar to what happened here. In and around that area in Brockton, you have a lot of the multifamily homes on small lots. The turn of the century, when the shoe factories started to boom, you had a lot of the shoe factory workers come into that area of Brockton on the east side, and hence we have most of the lots dramatically smaller and inferior in size than what you see here tonight. They're 10,000 square foot lots, and in fact, I think I added to my memo a copy of the assessor's plan showing the enormity of this lot compared to the lots around it. We are looking to seek relief from area lot size, rear yard setback, and frontage. However, it is relief which would make us consistent again with the houses in the area. In fact, as far as frontage goes, the house directly across the street from this house is the exact same frontage as to the relief that we are seeking. With that in mind, I'll ask Mr. Farrier to make some comments, and I will then briefly wrap it up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we did go to the planning board with this plan. We had gone to one planning board meeting previous to that, looking to divide the property into 3 lots, a vacant lot on Crescent Street, the vacant lot that we have before you on Milton Street, and the existing house lot after some back and forth with the planning board, we decided to kind of scrap that plan and come forward with this plan, creating the one lot on Milton Street. The existing dwelling on the corner of Henry and Crescent Street is a three-family home that consists of 6 total bedrooms. One unit has 3 bedrooms, another unit with 1, another unit with 2. So there's 6 total bedrooms. There is an existing driveway, an existing garage. In addition to that, we're looking to construct a little parking area between the driveway and the garage, so we'll have enough parking on that three-family home for 8 vehicles there on that lot, which is called Lot A. Our proposed lot, Lot B, is your typical 4-bedroom colonial with an attached 2-car garage. So we have a 2-car garage, a double-barrel driveway that'll provide plenty of parking for that home. As Attorney Nesrela said, all of the lots in our surrounding area are Milton and Henry Street, are single-family homes, all under 10,000 square feet, pretty much the exact same size as what we're proposing.
This particular proposed house is where Mr. Maldonado wishes to reside, live. He's a resident of the city. And as far as the justification, a legal basis, under Chapter 48, Section 10, the odd size of odd shape of a lot is a criteria which would allow the variance. Again, here you have very odd shape, and you have a lot of unused land that won't be used, and hence we're looking to utilize that portion so the existing lot doesn't stick out in the middle of a sore thumb. In rationalizing the basis for the variance, the board should look at 2 things. Number one, that there is not substantial detriment to the public good. Well, the public good is publicly living in all surrounding lots as same as this nature. And secondly, that there is no detriment to the intent of the zoning ordinances. Well, the intent of zoning ordinances is to offer consistency to the areas. Allowing this would be extremely and exactly consistent with what we have there. With those points in mind and with the basis suggested, we would respectfully request that this board consider granting a variance to the property. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to respond.
Okay, board members, any questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, do we have a rendering of what we're building here?
No.
We don't. It's typical front entry colonial, 4-bedroom colonial.
Okay.
Could you explain the roof runoff infiltration system there a little bit?
It's basically what we do on all new construction now that comes before the city board, as opposed to just allowing it to drain into the street. With new stormwater management regulations, the city wants us to try to capture any increased runoff that we're providing. So we have our gutters, instead of downspouts like you got in your house that shed and eventually get to the street, they go underground. There's basically a leaching system, like a septic system, underground to handle all that runoff.
Thank you.
So it just recharges the groundwater, which is environmentally what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I'd just like to say that the board, on future presentations, would like to see a rendition of what you want to place on there for a house. And I believe that there's probably only 2 or 3 styles of homes that you are looking at to put on these existing lots. But it would be very helpful in your presentation if you had something that you could show the board as to what's going on there. The other question I had is Lot A, which at one point was potentially developable, but now you've taken that out. We can put a stipulation on this that Lot A, as described in this plan, will always remain as it is, and that portion that's on Crescent Street will not be built upon. Is that what you're telling us tonight?
Well, that's what you brought up.
I brought it
If
up.
you want to make that as a condition, as opposed to a stipulation, that's fine.
I think the idea was that should not be developed with a dwelling or anything because of the depth. It's only 63 feet. Yeah, okay, very good. Any other questions from board members?
Yes, one question, is there going to be an increase of the amount of asphalt for parking, or is it going to remain the same?
There'll be an additional asphalt area between the existing driveway and the existing driveway.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Board members all set? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on this issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that. That closes the public discussion on this petition. I'll now open it up for discussion among the board members. Board members.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is something that I've seen on the planning board, a much better layout. So that's what we thought on the planning board, so pretty good.
It would appear that that lot that's on Milton Street, this would be an improvement to that lot that's currently there right now.
No question.
Yeah.
I would 110% agree.
All right, I would entertain a motion with the understanding that I'm sorry, somebody say something?
Somebody coughed? No.
Okay, I would entertain a motion that the Lot A as we see it will remain as it is along the Crescent Street side, and the Lot B as it's on the plan that we have in front of us.
Motion to grant?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and granted, motion's been made and seconded, I should say, with that stipulation. Will the clerk please call a roll?
Stephen Lannis,
Yes.
Yolando Spinola,
Yes.
James Sweeney.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 nos.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted. Thank you. Good luck. I just want to mention to the board members that when you're speaking, speak into the microphone so that you can hear. All right, the next petition is 2232, the petition of Cassie K. Holmgren, trustee, 14 Athens Drive, Brockton, Mass., for relief from Article 3, Section 2719, to allow for a pool house as a third accessory structure, and are seeking a special permit under Section 2737, subsection B, to construct a pool house as an additional accessory structure in an R1C zone located at 14 Athens Drive. On this petition, our fire chief will not be voting on it, and Monique Screenberry will be voting in his place. Counselor. All yours.
Good evening, members of the board. Attorney John McCluskey, representing Cassie Holmgren. In her stead this evening is her father, Jamie Holmgren, who's been a CPA and a longstanding resident of the city of Brockton for many, many years. What we're asking tonight is for a special permit, and I'll explain that in a little detail. The Holmgrens recently bought this through Cassie. This is on Athena Drive in Brockton. They moved from Athena Drive to Athens Drive, and bought a home which is located right here on the lot. There is a detached garage right here. There's a proposed pool right here and a proposed pool house right here. The ordinance under 2719 allows for 2 accessory buildings or 2 accessory uses, and if you get a third accessory use, you have to ask for a special permit. That's a little odd in what we're normally seeing here, but under 2719, the ordinance actually refers us back to another ordinance, 2737B, which speaks to special permit standards as opposed to variance standards. I actually, back in April, reached out to the building commissioner and asked him about this, whether I was reading the ordinance correctly, and he said that, yes, in fact, I was. This is a special permit situation. And the standard of review here is whether it basically is more detrimental to the neighborhood than not. So what we have is, they actually have an attached garage to the home right here. And they have the first detached garage, which would be the first accessory use, the pool, which interestingly enough is considered an accessory structure, and those two would be allowed under the ordinance by right. So you get to have the home, they don't count the attached garage, but we want to add a pool house, a 20 by, is it 20 by 20, Scott? 22 by 20 pool house over here. This has, again, it's sort of interesting in reading the ordinance. This has an 11-foot setback, abuts up fairly close to the neighbor, but the neighbor has an accessory building right here, which is even closer. The setback requirement for an accessory use in a residential zone is 5 feet, which is, again, a little, some of this stuff was surprising to me, but it's 5 feet. The home goods have 11 feet here, so they don't need any setback requirement for their property. So what you're seeing here is a request for an accessory use for the pool house, which is 20 by 20, 18 by 22 or 22 by 22. It's, most of it, or half of it is storage. There's no bathroom facility in there. It will be opened up during the summer season, be used by the family during the summer season as an accessory to the pool, which is going to be under construction right here. Is it already under construction? Pool is already under construction. So you won't be able to see this from the property line. It's a single-story building, relatively small. I don't think it'll be heated, correct? No heat, no bathroom. And we would respectfully request that the board grant a special permit for an additional accessory building on the property. And you know, in reality, since the city considers, since the ordinance considers this pool an accessory structure, you know, it's flat, you don't see it. It's really, it's an underground structure. So I think, with all due respect, that this would be a good addition to the home. It would help the people using the pool, and it wouldn't be of any impairment to the neighborhood. So with that, Scott, unless you have anything else to say. Thank you.
All right, for the edification of this case, there's no question that the special permit is required for the third structure on the property. There's been some discussion ensuing relative to the side yard setback. In one section of the ordinance, it talks about the 5 feet, which I concur with you, but there is also another section that relates to the side yard setback being in conformance with the setback for the principal home. I would like to address that issue also. So could you just explain to us why we should?
Do that. Give me 1 second.
Yep. It's 11 feet and you need 15.
So on April 10, and I'd be happy to share this email, I emailed Building Inspector James Plook. I said, incidentally, the new pool house is about 10 feet off the lot line. It's actually at 11.
11, yep.
11 feet off the lot line. And it appears under 2720 that we only need 5 of the setbacks, so I don't think we need relief for that. Under 2720, it states that no accessory structure is located closer than 5 feet to the side and rear lot lines. So under 2721A, it says no accessory structure is located closer. I'll read the whole thing. Accessory structures which are not attached to the principal structure may be erected in accordance with the following restrictions. A, no accessory structure is located closer than 5 feet to the side and rear lot lines. And then There's another section that's a little confusing.
2722, you're correct, I agree.
It's a little confusing.
Yes, it is.
So that's why I reached out to the building inspector, and I said, you know, sort of, what's the deal here? Are we 5 feet or not? So this is 11 feet. Mr. Pliff's answer was, I'll take the easiest one first, which is I think the most difficult one. Under 2720, Section 3, the side yard setback of an accessory structure is required for the principal structure. So I think that shifts it over to, almost sounds like the principal structure can't be any closer than 5 feet, which is sort of weird. But he seems to be comfortable with the fact that we're further than 5 feet off, and I left it at that.
I would entertain a request for a variance also, so that will clean up any conversation relative to 5 feet or 15 feet.
If we could amend the petition, you know, right here to do that, we'd be happy to do that.
I can do that because there is a discrepancy within an understanding of the code.
Of
So I
course,
think-
that's the only discrepancy you'll ever find in the ordinance.
Yeah, right, I agree. So I think that you're right on target. I will entertain that, so.
So I didn't request a variance. If we could verbally amend the petition to include a variance, I'd respectfully request that we do that.
Okay,
We all set on that issue?
yeah. I just want to make sure that we were both understanding of that, so there's no future
I
problems.
was surprised
on
at the special permit language.
it. Yeah, well, it is. We've done many of these, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from board members?
Do you have any images of what what this is gonna look like?
We have any images? It's in the application.
Okay.
The image is preliminary. It's a small building, single story. I don't have an image, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
Although I chastised my client.
Is it more of like a lanai, like a roof with postings?
It's basically a shed.
Okay.
Right.
It'll be a shed roof, it's just an oversized shed, it's essentially what it is. That type of construction sitting on two, it's a big shed.
Okay.
I did give you some roof lines and
Right, yep.
tried to elaborate with what I had.
Very good. Board all set?
Yep.
Very good. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That closes the public hearing. I'll now open it up for board member discussion. Board members.
I don't see anything wrong with it, especially in the R1 zone when the lots are larger and you have more room as far as our city is concerned. So I don't see it as a safety issue. And we have done it in the past. If it makes sense, and there's no, you're not posting up against another structure that might catch fire.
There is plenty of room for that. They got a good area out there. Any other board members? Everybody's good?
Yep,
I
good.
would entertain a motion.
Motion to grant.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Lanus,
Yes.
Yolando Spinola.
Yes. Yes.
Gotta figure that out. James Sweeney.
Yes.
Monique Screen-Berry.
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 nos.
Thank you.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted. Good luck. Will somebody tell the fire chief to come back?
They're gonna tell him.
Huh? No, I think they're going to tell him. Hopefully, yeah, go get him.
job, Chief.
Yeah, good job.
Guys thought I was going well.
All right, the next petition, 2233. The petitioner Jason Burrell, 230 Thurber Avenue, Brockton, Mass., for a variance to convert a single-family home to a two-family home by means of addition using the existing footprint in an R2 zone located at 88 Emmett Street. Please identify yourself to the clerk.
Jason Burrell. Good evening, Chairman and the board members. I'd like to thank you for your time in the hearing about my request. I currently own 88 Emmett Street and stand before you seeking relief from the current lot requirements in order to convert a single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling.
Could you speak up just a little bit louder?
My fault. I'm seeking relief from the current lot requirements in order to convert a single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling by means of an addition. The property is zone R2 and sits in a neighborhood that's mixed with three families, two families, and single-family dwellings. This property is unique compared to the other homes as it was originally built as a storefront and at some point was used as a residential home. The position of the property is set at the front of the lot and close to one side of the property line. The home may have worked well as a storefront, but in my opinion, as a single family, it is an eyesore in the neighborhood. The structure resembles a shed or a trailer home. I'm seeking relief for the lot size, frontage, side, and front setbacks. Two-family dwellings require 10,000 square feet. This lot is currently 8,300, so I'm short by 1,700. The lot, however, is similar in size, if not bigger than other multifamily homes in the area. 100 feet of frontage is required, and I have 65 feet, so I'm short by 35 feet. However, the frontage is similar to the rest of the lots in the neighborhood. It has the required parking spots for a two-family home and also potential to add more if needed. The green space requirement is 25%. This lot has 78%, so there's plenty of green space. My proposed plan is to use existing footprint to construct an addition, which would add 1.5 stories and a total of 5 bedrooms. I will not be extending the footprint as to encroach any further than what already exists. There is enough distance right and left to the neighboring homes as to where noise and privacy should not be an issue. I believe my proposal will drastically improve the current home and conform better with the neighborhood. My hardship would be to have to continue to maintain the home as a single-family dwelling while it's zone R2 and very close to meeting the frontage and lot requirements for a two-family in a neighborhood that contains many multifamily homes. Thank you for your time.
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, what was the store that was previously there? What was the last use of that building as a store?
Well, when I looked it up on the city records, it shows when it was originally built, it was built as a storefront.
Okay. Any, like, business name or anything? No?
No.
Just curious.
If you go in the attic, you can actually see the old store's ceiling.
Okay.
Real quick, sir, the parking on the property.
Yep.
It's kind of difficult to make out how many vehicles would be able to be parked here.
I have a, right now it fits 4 easily, but you can add more, like, move forward. But I have a,
I see like around it, the asphalt and different things of that nature, how it presently is set, but it doesn't delineate how the parking would be when the building is constructed. Are they front to back? So like one car would park in front of the other? Okay. And just point, so Emmett Street would be, if I was looking at if you were looking at it, the upper left picture, Emmett Street is that, correct? Okay, I'm just trying to get that's what it looks like in the plan. I just want to make sure I'm oriented correctly. Okay, thank you.
So this addition is going to be 3 stories high,
2.5, yes.
and what you're calling the half story, which is the top story, will be used in conjunction with the second floor.
Yes.
So what's the total number of bedrooms for the
The
whole?
second unit will, the second unit will have 5, and the first floor will have 3.
5 plus 3.
Yep.
Do you have any knowledge of the ability of the structure of that store to support what you're proposing to do here?
Yes, I had 2 architects and an engineer look at it, and the joist, because it was originally built as a store, they said that the joist would support it, the floor joist.
Okay, my question was the foundation.
Yes, the foundation as well. They checked the foundation and the floor joist.
Can you explain to the board what the foundation is?
It's poured concrete. I can stand in there, and it's all poured concrete, so it's past what has it got to be, 4 feet? It's past that.
So it's not a stone foundation, it's a poured.
No, it's poured concrete.
Any other questions from any board members?
I just, I guess my concern is with the parking situation in the front to back and the congestion it creates, people trying to get in and out. If they're upstairs, downstairs, you know, it's gonna be a 2-family. So I see where the lot lines are. Could that parking be, I don't know, change, I guess
I
not.
could, in the picture, I could adjust where it has that extra green space to the side. I could make that parking too. So it would
Okay.
be 3 cars, so basically 6.
Understood.
That
All
would
right.
work.
Yeah, I think that's my only concern too, as long as we get the parking right on this. I do think it's an asset to upgrade this building because it is a bit out of line as it was a store previously. If we can add more parking in the back as a stipulation, that would be great.
So what is the stipulation?
8 bedrooms total, right?
Yes.
5 and 3, yep.
I would say at least enough to cover, it's gonna wrap around the entire building and back, at least enough to cover 8 spots.
So you're talking 8 parking places
Right.
or 6 parking places? What's a 2-family?
With,
So it's 4.
Yeah, it's 4. My concern is more the front to back and how it works. I'm just worried about people trying to get in and out. They'd almost have to delineate who parked on what side of the driveway, which floor. You see what I'm getting at?
flow of it, yeah.
Yeah. I know we're not in the discussion point yet, but that's my bigger concern. We've looked
Adding
at
parking
these.
to the side to make it,
So
that
I
work?
guess, as crazy as it sounds, when the person on the first floor comes home and they're parked on this section, but the other person that lives on the first floor is parked in this section, now everybody's off-center to one another, and how do these people get out and move amongst that driveway?
Yeah.
Like if it was a single-family home, we understand, it's all the same family, but now you have people that are home, they're not home, they took the bus, they went somewhere, they can't get out of the lot, different things of that nature. So that's where my concern is with the parking. I understand we need 2 lots per floor, per family, it's a 2-family. But how they lay out is the bigger concern of the congestion of what people would have to do to get in and out of there.
So you're thinking of a stipulation of unimpeded parking so that each vehicle has access to enter and exit?
That's correct. I think that's kind of what I was getting at, along with Mr. Sweeney. I don't know how it happens here with the space in that lot, what he has left for lot space. I think what he's doing here is a major upgrade to that property that's there. I'm concerned about the parking, Mr. Chairman.
I guess a suggestion would be, is if you can leave that opening open and get to the back and somehow get 4 going, I don't know, I guess, along the street side, if you're, now you're at the back of the house, parallel to the street behind the building, you can back out and drive out, no problem.
Almost like almost like parallel parking.
Yeah, right, so
Around the
you'd
building.
have a spot
It does
here.
cut down on his green space, though, that's the only
Right,
issue.
but he could probably narrow the driveway to gain more,
Yeah.
too, as long as that's a pass-through.
So we just need to be careful that we're not re-engineering this.
You're right.
Well, I
plan.
think the street, is the driveway now a single-shot driveway going into on that side? It appears to be. It's not a double driveway.
Well, right now you can fit 4 cars in it.
You can fit 4?
Yeah. right
Okay.
now, currently.
So it's 33 feet from the house to the property line. And it looks like there's a fence there, 3 foot, what's that, a 3-foot high fence? And a 4-foot chain link fence?
The actual measurements of the driveway right now is 37 feet by 20.
The driveway is 37 feet wide?
Yeah, no, long, and then
Oh.
20 feet width.
Okay, so I think what I'm reading on the plan here, it says 33.4 feet from the house to the property line, on the left side. You got your plan in
Yeah, I
front of
got
you?
I noticed it didn't have the measurements for the driveway, so I measured it the other day. Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is we want unimpeded access for 4 vehicles off-street parking.
So if I were to wrap the parking around the back to add spaces, would that work?
It's up to the board.
Yeah, I think that works for me, as long as you can get a turnaround in there and, you know, pull out straight to the street. In this instance, you know, the green space is gonna be secondary to parking where now you're adding a 2-family in the neighborhood, and it's gonna be, you know, populating the street more, so, and then if you had people over and all that stuff, so I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that.
I'm okay with that. I think we should hold off on anything other than that when we don't have questions to the discussion portion, would be my.
All right, we all set? Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public hearing. I'm now going to open it up for discussion among the board members. Board members.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would agree. I think, you know, we got to be careful we're not re-engineering the whole plan. The petitioner is working to get the green space in. If we put ourselves in a position to now take the green space out to add parking, we're kind of putting ourselves into redesigning his plan, which is not the mission of this board. I do, again, I will tell you, I have deep concerns about the parking situation because we've discussed this in the past in other cases where the front to back thing and side by side is very difficult. So that's really all I have to say about it.
I would just add, if there's 4 unimpeded spots behind the building and an access out, I think that works.
The one thing that's not shown on this plan is the next-door neighbor to the right, that Pina Andrade. There is a building that is very, very close to the property line. That side of his proposed building is 3 stories high, and it's only 3 feet from the property line. So the proximity to his proposed addition to that dwelling or garage, whatever it is that's next door, is very, very close. And this whole store is only 4 feet from the front property line. Now, on the front, he needs 20 feet, he's only got 4. On the side, he needs 10 to 20 feet, he's only got 3 feet. I'm just concerned that this proposed addition is going to be totally overbearing for what's on that street up there right now, and where this proposed dwelling sits in relation to the side back from the set of the sidewalk. This building is basically going to sit right on the sidewalk. And as a store, 1 story, it's not imposing negatively on the neighborhood, but I'm just concerned that a building of what he wants to build there is going to be very large, sitting right on the sidewalk. I don't know if he's got other options. He's got room perhaps in the rear to do something or whatever, but I'm not crazy about the stack parking on the side yard, and I have concerns with how close this is to the sidewalk. Any other comments from board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Lannis,
Yes.
Yolando Spinola,
Yes.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 yeses, 2 noes.
All right, the vote is 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The petition is denied. All right, the next petition is 2234, the petition of Seismic Incorporated, 826 Crescent Street, Brockton, Mass. For a special permit seeking a change in category of their current wine and malt package store license to an all-alcoholic package store license in a C2 zone located at 826 Crescent Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name's Patrick Sullivan. I'm an attorney with an office in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Here on behalf of Seismic Incorporated, they're the corporate entity that is running Temple Beer and Wine at 826 Crescent Street in Brockton. And their principal, Jack Grudevin, is here with us as well. Just for some background on the substance of the special permit application before you, they've been operating a beer and wine store at this site for approximately 4 years now, which is allowed by right in the C2 zoning district. They are applying for a change in their liquor license to an all liquor license, which would include the sale of liquor at the site. Under your zoning ordinance in the C2 zoning district, that requires a special permit. That is the substance of this application before the board. I'd like to make a few notes on that. Really, this is the only change to the site, is what is going to be on the shelves, that they are adding liquor. You saw a sketch plan submitted with the application, which kind of has the basic layout of what they're anticipating. Like I said, there's beer and wine at the site now. There's some convenience store items which will be reduced so that they can add the liquor there. But there's no changes to the site, to the parking, to lighting, to drainage, to access, egress. So any of the typical special permit concerns that you have there, that this could be detrimental to the neighborhood or is not harmonious to the neighborhood or could cause traffic congestion, we really don't anticipate any issues in that regard, as the only change here, as I said, is a request to be adding liquor to the shelves. They're of course going to be applying with the license commission, and they're going to need that change in license. But what we're requesting here is that we meet the standards for issuance of a special permit, and that they'll be able to move forward with the license commission with that procedure, and hopes to obtain that change in liquor license. So as I said, no change in site. I did request a waiver in terms of providing a site plan. We went out and got some quotes, which were going to be pretty expensive, and so I did check with administrative staff and received a response from James Plouffe that he was in agreement that he didn't feel it was appropriate or needed to present a site plan here where there are no changes to it. Everything is, as I said, remaining the same. Signage out front, store hours, there's really no changes at all. It's just what's on the shelf. So that concludes my part of the presentation. If there's any questions for the applicant, would be happy to address them.
Where is the next closest liquor store?
It's next to the next plaza. It's around like 2-3 minutes different distance.
I don't know the address, do you? Used to be Lambert's. Yeah, I'm not certain off the top of my head. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lambert's, but generally 2 or 3.
I am. They sponsored my Little League team when I was a kid.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Is it in, that's in that same plaza where you are?
Yep.
Okay.
Next one.
Next one
Next
over.
door? Okay.
So there's currently a liquor store on the same plaza?
The next plaza over.
Okay.
When you say next plaza over, you're talking East Side Shopping Plaza.
Is that correct? The other liquor store, which used to be Lambert's, is it? Could you explain that? Just introduce yourself as well. Just
Yeah.
introduce.
Hi, my name is Alpesh. I'm husband of Jagrati. The other plaza is right across from the Home Depot on the Crescent Street. The other liquor store, the right across from the Home Depot.
Okay.
Yeah, right on Crescent Street.
Okay, I have a question of the attorney. These petitioners before us tonight are not the owner of the plaza.
Correct.
They are tenants of the plaza.
That's correct.
There is no attestation letter that came with this that the owner of the property has no objection to them coming before us tonight looking for a variance. So my question to you is, are you in a position to tell the board that our concerns about the owner of the property, knowing that this petitioner is before us tonight, our fears for that are allayed?
Yes, I believe you have the typical, I didn't think you would accept the application. I believe we have the typical, if that's the terminology, owner's attestation that signed off on the application. I'll have to look at what was submitted, but I recall we contacted the landlord. They're in regular touch with them and are aware of your seeking to change the liquor license. If there was any administrative oversight, I could supplement it with anything to the board, but they've confirmed that with the landlord, and I do recall us going through the procedure of getting the signature of the landlord to submit with the application.
Okay, that satisfies my concern.
Sure.
But oftentimes we'll get a letter from the owner saying that he has no problem with the tenant looking for a variance.
Sure, absolutely, and just to be, just a special permit here, but yeah, I believe it was submitted, and it might not have been formatted that way. It was the typical owner authorization consenting to the application, joining in it, that I would have felt was satisfactory to acknowledge that they're not contesting it in any way.
Okay, that was my concern.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay. Just for the board's edification, I think what we're looking for tonight as a zoning board is to determine if this is an appropriate location to expand from a beer and wine to a liquor license. As far as the operation of that store, that's going to be up to the License Commission. The hours of operation will be up to the License Commission. And in fact, if the zoning board should grant the special permit, it does not guarantee that they're actually going to get a license from the License Commission. So I think what our job is in several of these tonight is just to determine if we feel as though it's an appropriate location for what they want to do. Beyond that, the specifics will all be handled by the License Commission. Is that how you understand it?
That's
also?
correct, yes, I appreciate that, and that's correct.
Quick question, are nips going to be sold at the location? And what would be like the waste management of if customers are using nips and throwing it away?
Can you speak to that? Nips would be included?
Right now, yes. As long as we are allowed to sell, yes.
Okay, so right now you are allowed to
To
sell
the
nips?
law, if we are allowed to sell, we're gonna sell the nip. If we don't have to sell the nip, we're not gonna be,
Okay. And will there be any plan for how to deal with the waste of nips? Because we do have
Basically,
that problem in Brockton a little bit.
Sure, absolutely, that they get discarded outside. Do you sweep the sidewalks? Are
Yes,
you cleaning up
absolutely,
outside the
yeah.
store, and that would continue? So
We will take care of that, yeah.
they're currently maintaining outside in front of their storefront,
Yeah.
and they would maintain it the same here if there was anything on site.
Yeah, anything we have to do that, we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, board members, you all set? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. And that will conclude the public discussion. I'll now open it up for discussion among the board members. Board members.
I don't necessarily see that as an issue. We're currently looking, the city is currently looking to develop a nearby area into a possible C5 area where they're going to develop as far as planning. So you're selling alcohol right now. I don't see where a full liquor license in that zone would cause a problem, and I think it would actually be a benefit and a convenience to the development in that area.
I agree. Now, the other liquor store is what, quarter mile away?
Yeah, Home
You
Depot.
have to speak up, Steve.
Sorry, the other liquor store there is what, about a quarter mile away?
It's in that plaza they described as the plaza that's across from Home Depot.
Okay, so.
I don't know if it's a quarter of a mile, but it's some distance. And again, I just want to reiterate that if there was two liquor stores that were in close proximity, that would be a decision of the License Commission as to whether they want to grant a license. So one board could say, we don't have a problem with where it's going to go, but another board may say, for their particular reason, that they either concur with us or they oppose us, so.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Lanus,
Yes.
Yolando Spinola,
Yes.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 nos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The petition is granted. Good luck. Petition number 2235, the petition of 2030 Ocean Street LLC, 125 Standish Street, Marshfield, Mass., for a special permit to operate a package liquor store, beer, wine, and liquor, in a C2 zone located at 750 Belmont Street. Please identify yourself.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Adam Barnowski, 255 State Street, Boston. I'm here on behalf of 2030 Ocean Street LLC regarding the property at 750 Belmont. With me is Dan Newcomb. He's the principal and owner of the LLC. We do have if the chair would accept it, community briefs that include some business plans and compliance information, if you'd like to review that, just to give some context to the presentation.
What is it?
Just a community brief with more information about.
No, that looks like it's way too much for us to look at right now, so if you could just explain that, it would be very helpful.
Understood. So we're here on a special permit application to allow a package store use for the property at 750 Belmont Street. The property is located in a multi-tenant commercial building on the south side of Belmont Street near the corner of Magnolia Avenue. We're within the same building as AutoZone and a half dozen or so other retailers. The property and building are sited on the most western portion of the C2 zoning district, which abuts the C1 zoning district on its most eastern boundary line. Mr. Newcomb and his team plan to build out and improve the premises, which is currently a vacant retail space, into a boutique package store under the name Wine and Market, which will provide a diverse selection of beer, wine, spirits, as well as gourmet coffees and premium non-alcoholic beverages. So while this is a commercial building in a commercial zone, as the board is aware, the use requires a special permit for the proposed use. This, as was referenced in the prior application before the board, there's two steps here. One is for underlying zoning. That's why we're here before you today for the special permit. And the second is going to be to the Licensing Commission and the ABCC to discuss issues of time, place, and manner, and all the things that are covered by the licensing board. So we're here on step one, the special permit before you. Under section 2729(3)A of the zoning ordinances, any special use that is permitted in the C1 zone may be permitted by a special permit in the C2 zone. And in the C1 zone, a package liquor store is allowed by right as a special use, and therefore that use is permitted in the C2, and it's allowed by special permit. The standards for special permit are set forth in section 27-37, which we need to show that the use complies with applicable regulations, that the use is in harmony with the general zoning district, that there's adequate ingress and egress from parking, and any additional standards that are set forth in the code. So here, the use will comply with the applicable regulations. It's an existing building with a proposed storefront on the first floor of a multi-tenanted property. It will be compliant with all building code, fire safety, health regulations, and there will be an additional layer of compliance with the city and the state due to the licensing regulations. Second, the proposal is in harmony with the C2 zone, and it'll not be detrimental to the existing neighborhood. As I mentioned, there's currently a building there. There's currently retailers there. There was previously a retail location at this site. It's within a well-established shopping center in a commercial zoning district. It's also worth noting in considering the special permit that a beer and wine license, a beer and wine operation, that use could operate by right in this zoning district. So the zoning district itself is custom to and does allow by right the underlying use for retail sales of alcohol. It's really just that added spirits designation that requires a special permit before the board. It's also worth noting the proximity between the C1 and C2 zoning districts when you're talking about the harmony and what really works here. Because I think the property line is about 35 feet away from the C1. So this concept would be allowed by right a block over, one property over. And I think that's worth considering when you're talking about whether there would be any detriment to the zoning district or to the neighborhood. Third, special permit requires adequate ingress and egress from parking areas. This shopping center is a longtime fixture within the commercial zoning district. The plaza is set back from the street. There's 130 parking spots in the front. There's 41 parking spots in the rear. There are 2 curb cuts that are large that allow ingress and egress to Belmont Street. And fourth, such use needs to comply with the additional standards set forth in 27-38. There are no additional standards relative to a package store use. So with that being said, we do feel as though this application and this use meets the criteria of the special permit under your bylaws. We're very excited about this use. Dan Newcomb is available to talk a little bit more about the concept if you'd like to hear anything else about Wine and Market. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, is the applicant the owner of the building?
If I may, excuse me. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney Philip Nazarella. I represent Ms. Vanessa Myhouse Gumbert. She represents the owner, the entity that owns the facility, and they assent to this particular application. If there's any questions, she's here. She'll be pleased to respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess my question is, we have some traffic issues as far as coming and going out of that parking lot. Belmont's a very busy street. Do you have any suggestions on maybe how to clean this up or how to help or maybe alleviate some of the possible traffic implications with an increase in traffic to a liquor store?
Well, I know that, I mean, I think the issue we're up against, and this is probably a collective issue of the property owner, the operator, and the city, is that where this plaza exists, there are, you know, a host of other retailers that can be allowed in there by right. So, I mean, I think we're certainly open to ideas, but I think it's going to be, you know, traffic and parking are, I mean, not so much parking because there's a lot of parking here, but traffic is going to be the common enemy, I think, of any proposal, whether it requires permitting by this board or it's by right.
Would we, and this is just out for the board, would be, there's two ways in and out, and both are in and out, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Would you be opposed to one way in, one way out?
I mean, we could not make that you know, we have a leasehold interest in the property. We have certain rights and obligations under the lease that would be, you know, questioned for the landlord, and certainly they control that entire property. I don't know if they're interested in speaking on that issue at that point, but we could bring it to their attention, certainly.
It would, if other members feel the same way, I think that's very important.
It would appear that the driveways are wide enough and they've been there for quite some time, that there's room for a car to go in and go out. I'll tell you, when you're on Belmont Street right now and you're gonna make any turn on that street, you've gotta make an immediate move. And with the two driveways there, I think it gives you a little bit more option of where you wanna make your turn. Whereas if one was just an in and out, I don't know how we would ever police that. That becomes the problem.
Well, it could be a solution where you enter, you're kind of channeled too. All too often, that whole area is a cut-through, so.
I'm just a little disappointed that the plans that were submitted to us tonight are 19 years old, and they still show Bickford's Restaurant on the plan. And I went up and looked at this, and from my personal observations, I think what I saw and what is on this chart pretty much coincides with what's there. But I think it would have been better for the board if at least an engineer put a signature on here that nothing has changed in 19 years. So, do you have an up-to-date plan? Is that what that is?
We anticipated that potential issue, if I may?
Yeah, go right ahead. Sure. Why don't you just stand in front and have him help you hold that so we can see it on the TV also? There you go.
So for the record, it's April 4th, 2022, and that shows the current conditions, it's a current conditions site plan, which I think, besides for the reference to the business that's no longer there, I believe that dimensionally and the site is most, is similar or identical to the prior plan submitted.
We did some variance work on this site years and years ago, and I believe it was separated so that a restaurant or Bickford's or whatever that was going to go in there at the time, it never happened. They never did go in. So that some property lines were drawn there. So I was just concerned that what we're looking at with what was submitted is the same thing as to what you're proposing, and it appears that it is.
Yes, yeah, and again, for the record, this proposed business will be located and sited within a currently existing envelope within the building.
So if this was granted, I guess the understanding would have to be that the location of this proposed store is going to be on the westernmost end of that plaza. I think if this is granted, I think this board needs to be very careful that if we grant a variance and special permit to allow them to put this in that plaza, of actually which store or what part of the plaza that's going to go in. I am of the impression that it's going to be at the old Merrill Shoe, which is the far west end of that plaza. Is that correct? So if this is granted, I think we need to be very specific that that is that store location that we're talking about, not the plaza location. So if this is granted, that we don't go up there next week and find out the liquor store is on the other end of the building.
That's correct, and that in Exhibit A of the application materials that were originally submitted, there is a designation for the location within the plaza that's in yellow, and it is on the most western boundary line.
Okay, and I think it's just imperative that we all understand that even though there is a plaza that may have empty stores, that after this is, if it was granted, that a decision is made, let's move it to the other end because it's more convenient for everybody on the other end. When in fact, if this is granted, we're looking at a particular vacant store, which is on the west side. We all agree on that?
Yes.
What is a boutique liquor store? I've never heard that term before.
Would you like to speak to that, Dan?
I would. Thank you. Good evening.
Dan, you should just come to the mic.
You can put that down. I think we all understand where it's going now. Thank you.
So what we don't want, what the city doesn't want is another lottery liquor store. Our intention is not to go in and give the consumers what is available to them. We want to give them something different. And we want to take if you think of coffee, there's Dunkin' Donuts and there's Starbucks. They're both coffee retailers, but there's a little different flavor to it, a little different pizzazz to it. And that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to make the store, a little brighter, a little more open. You won't see stacks of Bud Light or Bud Light signs in our window. It's not our business model. Our business model is more of a, if you've ever been into a Total Wine, where it's a little more upscale, but people can get the beer, wine, spirits that they want there, as well as things like a pound of coffee or some specialty water, some non-alcoholic. We think that that's really important, and that's a big part of our business plan.
How do you intend to address the concern of the location of this proposed liquor store to the property at the Brockton High School?
That's a great question. So I've had multiple conversations with City Councilor at Large, Farwell, Mr. DiAgostino, the Ward 3 councilor, who has spoken with the superintendent of schools, who told us in January that they wouldn't be opposed to us with this use there. It's an adult beverage store. It's not a convenience store. It's not a place where kids will come in to get an ice cream or a soda. If you're not 21, there's no reason for you to be there. And we don't think that at the level of the presentation of the store, it's not something that kids are going to be interested in going into. We also have, we're tips trained. Everybody on the staff will be alcohol service trained, as well as we'll ID everybody. Everybody, regardless of age, will be ID'd.
That has been a concern in the past in that immediate location about the availability of liquor as it relates to the proximity of the high school. And there's been some very, very serious concern about it. Mm-hmm. You're telling us tonight that you have had conversations with principals of the school system, of the elected officials, and you're telling us that there has been no opposition.
Mr. DiAgostino, the Ward 3 councilor, told me that he spoke with the superintendent of schools and that they wouldn't be opposed to our concept being at that store. They're not interested in a convenience store, but a more upscale brand, and I would expect him to have to see him at the licensing board as well, or a representative either from Mr. DiAgostino's office or the superintendent of schools. I've had stores inside Stop and Shop. I've owned liquor stores inside Stop and Shop and have operated successfully. And I've had thousands and thousands of transactions where we've never been called in before the local licensing board for serving a minor, or we've never been before the ABCC for serving a minor. I'm very proud of that. It's something we take very seriously. Personally, I don't drink. I haven't drank in 34 years. It's something that I pay attention to. I want to have a nice store that somebody could go in and feel an adult could go in and feel comfortable and get what they want. But at the same time, we want it to be a nice, neat, clean store. We don't want to have, again, we're not interested in doing a lottery liquor store here. That's not what we want to do. We want to provide something that's a little more on the upscale side. We'd like to see it be more of a regional. I'd like to see, people coming from East End and the neighboring communities to come there versus your day-to-day, pick up a six-pack and go home kind of thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question, was what experience have you had in the past with operating stores like this? And I think you've explained that.
Yeah, so I've been manager of record. My family had a restaurant chain called Mug and Muffin back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I grew up in the restaurant business. My cousin, we opened up Stonebridge Cafe over on Belmont Street, over in Lambert's. That was mine. I set my cousin up in there, and that was 20 some odd years ago. That's the type of business that I grew up doing, the breakfast and lunch side. After I left there, I've been manager of record and an owner with an on-premise liquor license. On the off-premise side, I've been an owner and a manager of record of stores inside Stop and Shop in Walpole, Boston, Malden, I currently hold licenses in Quincy, Tewksbury, Framingham, and Methuen. And those are stores that we're going to do the same concept in. We've been before those boards. We've been vetted. We've, discussed our concept with them and our experience and our history. And we're looking forward to doing that. So I think in this day and age, if you're not familiar with the liquor industry right now, there's a big consolidation happening, and there's a lot of, there's a potential ballot question coming out that's gonna really change liquor retailing in general. And to be successful, you need to have multiple stores. So you can share employees, you can share product, you can do marketing together. It's really important. It's very difficult to make it work with a single unit operation. So we're prepared to, build a team, build a good team and be strong. And like I said, it's very important to me to be part of the community. And, my family's in Milton. We've been there since 1965, operating at 1139 Randolph Ave. And my mom's 87. I was with her today, and people are talking to, she's down at the physical therapist, and someone's talking to her about the pancakes she gets at Newcomb Farms. So I know what it's like to be part of the community and how to get involved and be a good community, good neighbor.
So I'm led to believe from your discussion that you would not be setting this store up and then selling the store off to somebody else? We can't control that. It's just, I believe what you're telling us is that you want to be a part of the fabric of the community, and it appears as though you have a lot of experience with what you're trying to do here.
And that's not to say that we expect, and we have been approached by people to date on some of the projects that we have to become business partners or to buy us. I just sold the project that we had in Lexington to somebody. They've gone back before the Lexington board, and they're doing what we laid out. They're doing the same concept that we laid out. And the licensing board had an opportunity when they presented their application to vet them and make sure that they were doing what was in the best interest of the city. So if I was going to say that I wouldn't sell the businesses, or that wouldn't be accurate. I'm a developer. I develop stores, and we may run it. We may have a business partner in there. There's many different things. There's a lot of moving parts here right now. But I'm committed 100%. The buck stops with me, and the responsibility of the store is with me. I'm the one that signed the lease with the landlord.
Very good. Any other questions from board members?
I guess my only concern would be I think it will be successful. I think you have a built-in audience with about 500 staff members and teachers right around the corner that might take advantage of it. Two things I'd like to see. I'd like to see some improvements on that building in the future. We're probably not going to stipulate that, but that's something if you're going to invite the outside town in, we'd like to see that building beautified, some better green space. And if you run into traffic, because if you're going to get busy, we should probably see on the traffic commission too at some point, because if you are busy, that is the location next door, that yellow building over there, a major reason that's not successful is because it's not accessible. It's a very busy intersection, one of the busiest we have. So those are the two things I would be concerned with. Otherwise, I think it's a phenomenal idea.
And I could commit to the city that, when there's the busy times of the year typically fall around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. If traffic is an issue, that hiring a detail to help and keep people safe is not, it's something that I'd strongly encourage. I want people to be safe. It's for someone to come and make it I don't want to say a habit to come, but if they want to frequent our store, it needs to be easy and safe. And we'll do what we can as operators to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
Okay, board all set? Good. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing and ask if there are any elected officials that want to be heard on the issue. Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public hearing. I'm now going to open it up for discussion among the board members.
My main concern was being so close to the high school, but it doesn't seem like it's marketed towards a younger market. So I'm pretty comfortable passing this on to the License Commission.
I also think that that other location served alcohol, that the old Friendlies, I believe at some point they did have a license, if I'm not mistaken, no?
I don't think they ever got a license, and that was one of the reasons the Bickford site never went anywhere, because nobody could get a liquor license for
Okay.
that location because of the high school. So this is a little different than that, but I think it's important that if we feel as though the location is okay, there's plenty of parking, there's plenty of access, I think at the next step, it's going to be to the License Commission. And I think they understand that even if we approve this, they could go to licensing, and licensing says, absolutely not, you're too close to high school, we don't like it, and that's it. And as far as setting hours and whatever that is, honestly, I think we should allow the License Commission to do that. So I think they're looking to us to say, do you think it's an appropriate location, and is there easy access to it? And then from there on, the License Commission's got it, so.
I would agree, Mr. Chairman. I think the presenter has come here, the petitioner has come here with a top-notch presentation, talking about something he wants to beautify in the city and make look, bring in, you know, business befalls business. And that plaza, to some extent, has struggled over the years. If a business that cares about their business, as Mr. Newcomb has explained in what he's done around in other communities, I believe if he has the upscale, per se, environment that he's presenting there, I think it would bring in other businesses of that stature, which will help that entire plaza as a whole. So I think, you know, when we talk about the zoning aspect of this, we're talking about the fact that, you know, we're not granting any licenses for liquor. That's a whole other animal. We just have to make sure, like you said, Mr. Chairman, that we're putting the right occupancy in the right place. And I really think he's shown that he wants to become a part of the community and what he's doing and making it, you know, not just, again, like he said in his words, not just a liquor and lottery store where people are running in, grabbing a six-pack and running out. I think, you know, this is a business, so I think it's a very nice proposition.
Based upon his testimony, it sounds like he's had a lot of experience, and there has been no problems that we know of relative to the operation. So, I mean, he testified that he's run a clean operation. I guess we have to take that for what it's worth, so.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
David Lanus.
Yes.
Yolando Spinola.
Yes.
James Sweeney.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 nos.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck.
That's because the population changed. All right, the next petition is 2236, the petition of Salto's Liquors and Food LLC, care of John N. Canaro, 53 Arlington Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance or special permit from Article 4, Section 2732, to have permission to have a full alcohol license in a C5 zone located 1041 North Main Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney John Canavo of Sims & Sims on behalf of the petitioner, Salto's Liquor and Food LLC. Mr. Mendez is a Brockton High graduate, went to UMass Boston, and has been employed by the trial court for in excess of 15 years. He's a local Brocktonian who purchased this store, and he does own the real estate as well as the store, having listened to some of the questions through the two earlier matters, addressed that from the get-go. He owns the building. He purchased this store and opened it literally at the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020. Couldn't have picked a worse time to start his business. He was unable to get any PPP funding because the business was not in existence prior. There is at present a beer and wine permit and license for the property. Had been used previously by the prior owners for an extended period of time. My client and myself came before this board approximately 2.5 years ago, seeking permission for him to install a kitchen. He spent upwards of $50,000 or $60,000 into the building to improve it in order to sell prepared foods. What he would be asking the board would be permission to, in addition to having the beer and wine, to also have a full alcohol license. As far as local stores, the closest liquor store in proximity would be on Oak Street, about 9/10 of a mile away. Any other stores would be in Avon as opposed to Brockton. We did provide the board with a current site plan, as well as a current proposed floor plan. The store is going to essentially be used pretty much virtually how it is right now, except there would be slightly less beer and maybe a little more alcohol that would be displayed in the store. One of the board members had a question earlier, I think, to two applicants prior about how would you handle nips and trash and the like. This is primarily a family-run business. Food is sold there. There are trash barrels. The neighborhood would be kept clean. And again, my client's a lifelong Brocktonian. He wants to make sure that his reputation stays unsullied. He's had a volunteer soccer program for upwards of 20 years in the city. Reputation is everything to Mr. Mendez, and we'd be asking the board for permission. Thank you.
Board members. All right, you came before us many years ago for beer and wine in the C5 zone.
Correct. It was being used the prior owner had it as well, I believe, and we were looking for that to be approved here, and then licensing obviously approved it.
Right, but you've been before us before on this.
Correct.
1998 is what I'm referring to. And we granted with the stipulations that the hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. No beer will be sold as singles in the store and no outside payphones. I'm told that most of this now should be in the purview of the License Commission as far as setting the hours and what can be sold out of the stores. It is very difficult to regulate beer, prohibiting the sale of beers as singles. That is, again, the purview of the License Commission. However, you are asking for a variance or a special permit. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Yes, it is a C5 zone, and as such, permission is being requested in order to allow the permitted accessory use so that alcohol, hard alcohol, liquor could be sold from the property.
Right, so you already have the ability to do beer and wine. This is an upgrade from beer and wine to liquor.
A full, correct, exactly. In addition to the existing permitted use, we'd be seeking permission to sell alcohol in addition to beer and wine. When I say alcohol, hard alcohol, if.
Yeah, right. So I guess my concern is that we're not starting from ground zero here. We already have the beer and wine license in the C5 zone, and we're upgrading from beer and wine to liquor, which basically is still in that same area of beer and wine and liquor in a C5 that you already have permission to do as far as a variance is concerned, all right?
Correct.
All right, so you agree on that?
Yes.
One of the stipulations that we put back in 1998 was a problem that has been ongoing at that location for a number of years, where cars are parallel parking to the building on Waldo Street. When a car pulls in and puts the front bumper up against the wall of the store, the back bumper of the car is hanging out onto Waldo Street. So the side yard from the sidewalk level to that store is only a matter of feet. So these cars technically are parking across the sidewalk. When a car is heading north on North Main Street and turns into Waldo Street, if a car is backing out of that spot, there's going to be a collision. So the stipulation was that there would be no parking up against that building. That does not prohibit parallel parking on Waldo Street, but the understanding and agreement was in 1998 that there would be no perpendicular parking on the sidewalk up against the building.
That is correct, and when we came before this board in late 2019, Mr. Chairman, you addressed that, and my client had the plans drawn that were presented that shows parking next to the building on Waldo Street is not face-in, but is rather, as you say, you would have to parallel park into that spot.
So here we are, the third time now that this has been identified as a potential traffic hazard. And all I'm saying is, if this license is allowed, something has got to be done by the owner of this establishment to address this situation of the parking. Now, when I went there a week ago, as I turned the corner from North Main onto Waldo Street, there was a large truck making a delivery to the back door of the store, and that truck was totally across Waldo Street, totally blocking traffic. Now, it could be that the driver of that truck wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. But this is a store that's in an old established neighborhood, and I understand that it is very difficult to establish a loading area. However, that situation just can't continue up there. Is there anything you can say to address that situation?
As far as parking goes, I would certainly, if the board wanted to, I could have my client put signage on the sign of the building saying, you know, parallel parking only. I don't know what control he has over someone outside. As far as the delivery goes, my client will speak to that.
Good evening. So last time we were here in 2019, you had the same concern. Actually, back then, I don't know if you remember, there was a line showing parking spots, and you instructed us to eliminate the lines that illustrate the parking. So that's exactly what we did. When the building inspector came, we showed him that we erased the lines. But I asked him, like, if he wanted us to put, like, any blockage so cars won't park against the wall. He just said, like, just erase the line and just leave it like that, because this is a sidewalk, not a parking spot. So just erase all the lines and leave it like that. That should be fine.
Okay, just as a suggestion, you could run a line parallel with Waldo Street on the back side of that sidewalk and put no parking signs on the side of your store.
Yes.
If a car parks parallel on the street, it's far safer than what's going on up there right now.
Yes.
And I have observed this numerous times, that these cars, the back end of the car is actually hanging out onto Waldo Street. And I understand you got a problem up there because the store is what it is, that you can't change the location of the store. But I need to make sure that you understand that what's going on there as far as parking is concerned can lead to a very dangerous situation.
Yes.
And I honestly think that you've got to address that situation.
All right. I will.
All right, board members, any other questions of the petition?
I mean, would that be something that bollards would be able to address to kind of push the cars out where they're not, you know, you're talking about parking right in nose to the building, right, on Waldo?
Right.
Which is not permitted and not allowed. My client removed the markings that were there previously, and again, I'd certainly be more than willing to stipulate, you know, he'll put some metal signs on the side of the building that say no parking to try to, you know, get the message home to anybody who's frequenting the store.
Could it be a metal bollard, you know, kind of dotted so that that section of his property that he owns?
I asked the building inspector last time. He said, no, I could set at least like 5 of them on the side of the building.
Right.
So cars won't park there. He's just like, no, just leave it like that. But if it is continue to be a problem, and this board is allowing to do something like that, of course I will do something not to prevent any cars to parking close to the building. And also, it will be safer for my building You know what I mean? Because when I bought the building, I could saw like a little hole there, and someone told me they parked across the building, so I would prevent my building as well. I know I have to spend some more money in order to do that, but if it is a request for this board, I'm definitely gonna do it.
Another option may be to turn that a bit into green space and put curbing where, you know, allow the sidewalk space, turn it to green space, maybe put some shrubbery in there and put curbage, so that eliminates the docking the way is described by the chairman.
That's it.
Would that be an option you'd be willing to entertain?
Absolutely.
I don't think we can tell you how to do this. All we're telling you is we have a concern that what is still going on up there has got to be addressed. And if this petition is granted, that would be a stipulation that that parking has to be addressed on Waldo Street. Secondly, if it persists, now it becomes a traffic commission issue. And if it's in the granting of the stipulations of the zoning, it helps the traffic commission to enforce it. And nobody wants to get into an enforcement situation. This is a situation that's been addressed, and if you're gonna invite people in to purchase liquor, you probably will have more people coming there. And I'll be honest with you, where they park, it's parking on an angle going up to the store. And how easy it is for somebody to step on the gas rather than the brake, and all of a sudden you got a drive-through store. It's happening everywhere. So I just want to make sure you fully understand how important this issue is. And it goes back to 1998. Okay, so enough of that. We all understand that. Okay. Any other questions from board members? None? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? No, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'll now close the public hearing and open up for discussion among board members. Board members.
I'd really like to see this partitioner turn that into a little bit of green space. You could do boulders, dot the boulders on the side. You could have mostly shrubs on that, so it's very low maintenance. I'm sure the neighborhood would appreciate it, both aesthetically and traffic-wise, which would be the more important concern. Other than that, that's really my only issue.
I think from a public safety perspective, the street there is wide in the way the pavement is laid out. So that's part of probably what's causing your problem. Like, to Mr. Sweeney's point, people are parking there because they can, because cars, if it's just a car, they can still get around. Obviously, the chairman saw a truck there, that changes the whole dynamic. One thing I just want to say is when Mr. Mendez was putting the kitchen in a few years ago, we were there on a call because one of his electricians cut a wire or something to that effect. I think from a aesthetics perspective and such, I went in there afterwards, and what he had done and transformed that back section of the store was incredible. So I believe in what I think is what he's going to run moving forward in this business is top notch, and I think what he's doing there is a lot nicer than maybe it was in the past, and it really has improved that neighborhood. Again, I agree with the parking situation, but I think obviously he can get around that. So in my opinion, he's running a top notch business, and being able to add to that is what we in the city should be embracing and wanting to happen. So that's my 2 cents.
I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the stipulation that there will be no perpendicular parking and no parking on the sidewalk. So I think you've heard all the concerns we got.
Yes.
And you know what that stipulation means. All right, very good. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Lannis,
Yes.
Yolando Spinola,
Yes.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Chairman, 5 yeses, 0 noes.
Mr. Chairman,
Is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted with the stipulations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Clerk, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Linda.
The next petition is 2238, the petition of Robert Belcher, trustee, TR. Jonah Realty Trust, Post Office Box 267, Milton Village, Mass. For a variance from Section 2734 to demolish a functionally obsolete building and construct a new mixed-use building containing 125,238 square feet with 3,638 square feet of retail and 83,492 square feet of residential with associated parking and open space in an I-2 zone located at 159 North Main Street. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Clerk. Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to be very brief. I am counsel to the owner, and I've been working very closely with the architects and engineers in developing that plan, which will be presented by Dan Howard, the chief architect, to the city, or to the board, sorry. At every step of the way, we have worked very closely with the city planning department, with the tax department, with the various departments of the city, and their responsiveness to our questions and information requests have been actually great. It is a plan to actually build a 80-unit apartment complex on 159 North Main Street. We believe that this fits very well with the city's plan to revitalize the area. Not only will it provide address housing needs of the Brockton community, but it will also contribute to economic vitality in that particular area. The building or the proposed plan is very well situated to provide quality housing and quality life for residents in that particular portion of Brockton. It is very close to the fire station, close to transportation, close to the police station, probably a mile or two from hospitals and other main facilities in the Brockton area. In the interest of time, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Orwick to make that presentation to the city. He's the chief architect on this project.
Sir, would you mind stepping over to the microphone, please?
Yeah, speak into the microphone. No, just hold the whole thing.
Okay. So I've been working with a team of surveyor, engineer, landscape architect, and architect. And this is over the last 10 months. And we've worked with Rob May and his associates to develop these plans. So there's multiple ideas here. We think we're in the zoning district of Industrial 2. And we're in the section of the zoning district which crosses Montello Street and North Main Street. And we think that this particular parcel, which is almost an acre, 43,000 square feet, that this particular parcel being large and on the corner of Charles Street and North Main Street, that it makes a bridge between the various uses. There's already mixed uses in there, even though it's industrial too, probably historically because of that. So there's the residential, commercial, and the industrial too. The neighborhood itself, so the 159 Main Street is right here on the corner in this yellow. It's right next, adjacent to Woodward Auto Parts. I'm sure everybody knows that. It's across the street, kitty corner across the street from the public storage facility. And it's kind of adjacent to the Alden manufacturing building. So the scale of the buildings are quite large in this area. And then they go to a body shop, Home Goes Body Shop, a commercial on the corner of Wayman and North Marshall. So we think it's a key portion of the city to be developed positively. We started by doing a survey of the existing facilities. And the building that's there now that Rob May termed functionally obsolete is almost 23,000 square feet. So it's like half of the parcel. And the building was built like around the 1900s and is built directly on the property lines at the corner of Charles and Main Street. And what they did when they built the structure is on a slab except for a small little basement where the utilities, the sewer and water come into the building. And what they did is they filled, because there's about a 7-foot drop along Charles Street. So what they did is they filled and they built a reinforced concrete wall along this property line to make it a flat building and usable. And they have a ramp coming up into the building right at this point. There's one entrance. And the reason for one entrance is because there couldn't be any more than that, because the building is built directly on the property line, and they built a retaining wall right on that property line so that there couldn't be both pedestrian or vehicular access into the building any other place other than this vehicular access right at this point. It's also adjacent to the Spot Lounge, which is right in this corner of the property. And there's also the Elbridge Place easement. It's a 17 feet wide and a 10 feet wide L-shaped vehicular access easement that the city of Brockton has. That hasn't been used in a long time, and because both of these structures, the Alden residential structure right in this location and the Spot, because they're built right on the property lines, there's literally 17 feet between the buildings. So it has poor line of sight, and we're not proposing using that, and there's a little encroachment of the Spot Lounge onto this property, and we're not contesting anything there. But we have no intention of using any of that thing for access. The proposal is to have a basement in the building where presently there's only this one little area where the utilities come in. And so the idea is to have an access off of Charles Street into an underground parking garage of 52 spaces. The building will have 2 elevators and points of access, one here and one here. Then we're pulling the building back from the sidewalk so that there's more access and a little more space along those lines. The first floor, the street level plan. The street level plan shows 2 points of access. These can be one way in and one way out. And by having a one way in and a one way out, we think, and splitting the access so that we have an underground access for 52 cars in the basement, it takes the burden of all of the traffic off of Main Street and splits it with Charles Street. We have this orange area is where the lounge, elevator, and access is to the majority of the units. And there's one retail space on the street level corner here because Rob May said he thought it was important to keep some retail space in this building. So it's really a mixed use facility. I came in after Rob May and the architect Stan Benulis of STB I came in to do the site engineering and the site definition of because there was no boundary survey or anything. So we've done all of that. We've tied in with the bounds that are on Charles Street, and then these are the set of plans that the architect had proposed before we came in. So there's a little bit of difference between these plans and our plans. As an example, this building is not shaped like this. It comes down all the way to this point, and there is no space on the lot line. He just didn't have an accurate as-built as we have now. But functionally, the building is the same, and it works within this site. And so he means to keep the architecture influenced by, this is the street level along Montello Street. So this would be the entrance into the commercial space. And then this is, the first floor is parking. So you have the basement parking and the first floor parking. And then you have 4 floors of residential. There's 68 2-bedrooms and 12 1-bedroom. He has the unit layouts. These are going to be refined, and this shows you. This is a good section here of Charles Street and the elevation of Charles Street to Main Street, and so that the parking works beautifully by having an access at this point into underneath the building. And then this is looking at the building. This is the access to the main access to the units with the lounge and the elevator at this point, and then the underground parking here and the street level parking in the building at this location. I'll take any questions or.
Sure,
Board
Mr.
may
Chair,
have.
if I may. This is 5/1 construction, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I guess my other question would be, did you freehand the plans because they're exceptional?
Well, Stan Benulis, he's architect. He's registered in 11 states, so he's a very creative guy. These will be. I had to transfer his hand-drawn plans into CAD plans because that's all we do. So the building does work. We have figured that out, but we're going to have to go to CAD on those buildings. We know that.
Another question of mine would be, when would demolition be slated, assuming you get all your clearance?
Well, we think the demolition will not take long. You know, the building is a 1-story building. The main, and by pulling the building back from the sidewalk, because right now it's right at the edge of the sidewalk, we're going to leave underground a portion of that reinforced concrete wall there so that the sidewalk still stays there. So that's going to work out in a positive way for us for construction. But it won't take long to,
Well, timing-wise, with everything,
a couple weeks. A couple weeks to demo it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting structure, but it's functionally obsolete for any use. He's owned this building for 29 years. He hasn't worked there for the last 9 years because he's been trying to sell it, and he hasn't been able to sell it. So that's when he put the team together to come up with some ideas on what to do, and working with Rob May and his associates, this is where we've come.
Could you highlight any of the amenities in that building? I'm sorry, I'm the planning board guy.
Yes, there is a multi-purpose room. There's a mail room, EMR. I know there's a fire in the basement. Those are the. Let's see here. Yeah, this one right here. This is and there's storage facilities in the lowest level. So, and then stair and elevator access in this location and this location.
And, sorry, again, how many total units in that?
There's 80.
80, okay.
And that's determined based on, with this, the drop in elevation, let's say 7 feet here, the building is 80 feet, a little less than 80 feet, because that's zoning, and it's about 76 feet on this side, this elevation. We do have some calculations by this site plan right here at this stage. It's 5% less building coverage. It's 10% less pavement than there is there now. And there's 15% more landscaping. So it's a net positive. And of course, this will meet stormwater management, where all the stormwater now runs out on the street, both Charles Street and North Main Street, and we're gonna collect that. There will have to be, because of the basement parking, there will have to be, stormwater management in there that goes to the sewer, just for the case there's a oil spill or something in the basement. That's a state law.
Could you tell me how many elevators are in it again?
2.
2 elevators? I only see 1 though, that's why. On the plan, it looks like is it labeled as elevator? Maybe I'm missing it.
Well, I see stairs here.
I see the stairs, and I only see 1 elevator.
Well, let me look at his plan. Yeah, I see only 1 on these plans.
Okay, so that's 80 people in that building, only 1
Pardon?
elevator. 80 people in that building, 80
Yeah,
apartments.
There will be 2. We will stipulate that. I didn't realize that there wasn't 2.
And the parking aspect here,
Yes, the parking does meet the requirements. There's 122 parking spaces. There's 52 in the lower level, and there's 42 inside here, and there's 28 out here. There's 122 spaces. And that met the 1.25 and 1.5 for the 2-bedroom.
could you just state your hardship again, what the hardship is here?
Well, the hardship is that the building that's there now is functionally obsolete and dominates the property. Go to the existing conditions. Dominates the property. And it's restricted. This is the only point of access in. By moving the building back from the property line in 2 locations, and providing access at this point, we can split the traffic so that half of the traffic can go in and out of Charles Street and half of the traffic can go in and out of North Main Street. So we think it's a better use of the building. That and this building in this location, having, let's say, a 5-story building here is, in scale-wise, matches the public storage building, the scale of the public storage building, as well as the Alden building right here. This huge building here. This is all, Woodward's Auto Supply. This is all parking and green area in this location. But the hardship is that we have a functionally obsolete building that nobody wanted, and he's tried to sell it for some time. So we come up with this solution and work with Rob to, come up with an alternative. Excuse me.
What's the clearance height in the garage levels?
I think he had 14 feet, 8 inches. I mean, we know that we're gonna have to meet all the state building codes. There's a section here that has it on the cement. Yeah, 14 feet, 8 inches.
That's the same for both?
Pardon?
That's the same for both levels?
Let's see, the lower level. Well, he's got 12 feet, 8 inches. on the lower level. And here, this is the building height was like 66 feet, 4 inches along North Main Street, and then it's at 79 feet, 0 inches on Charles Street, south end of Charles Street.
How did you come up with the parking formula?
The parking, let's see, he's got a, here's the parking. I'm doing it from memory here. There's 122 spaces. There's 52 in the lower level, and there's 42 in the upper covered level, and then there's 28 open space, or 28 outside. But I thought that was 1.25 times a 1-bedroom and 1.5 times a 2-bedroom.
Where'd that formula come from?
I don't remember right now, but I thought the zoning bylaw.
Okay. What provisions have you made for parking for the retail area?
That would be in this open parking area, would be right
So you're
here.
sharing what's required in the retail area with the occupants of the building. According to the square footage of the retail area, you're going to need 17 parking places.
That's, yeah, 3,500 square feet for the retail space.
Okay, where I'm
I
going,
assumed he kind of went through this with Rob May, because I didn't come into this, and I came in for the site work. So I'm, you know, I wasn't at that meeting with Rob May.
okay, I just want to be kind of forthwith here.
But we'll meet whatever requirements that are there, and if there has to be an adjustment of units, or we'll make those adjustments.
Well, what we're voting on tonight is what's before us.
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling us that there's going to be 80 units in the entire building?
Yes.
And according to the information you've submitted here, there's 117 spaces required. That's based upon your formula of 117. Okay?
Okay.
Now-
117, we have 122, so we only have 5, that you would say for the commercial, as you're saying.
Well, all right. My comment, my question to you is, I don't know where the formula for 117 came up. There's a lot of thoughts going around that nobody drives cars, everybody rides the train and drives bicycles today. But unfortunately, when you're looking at 68 two-bedroom apartments, most likely, each occupant of that apartment is going to have a car. So we can say that 117 spaces is required, but in all reality, it probably is going to require a significant number greater than that. And in that number, we haven't even considered the 17 spaces that are required for the retail area. So when you look at what's available up there for off-street parking, on-street parking, I should say, any overflow, it is very restricted up there. In the winter months, you cannot park on North Main Street at all.
Sure.
With the proposed driveway that's going to come out of the basement of this building onto Charles Street is only 33 feet wide at its widest point. That means that probably, most likely, parking on Charles Street is going to have to be prohibited in order for somebody to make a turn to get in and out of this garage.
Well, there's no parking there now.
That's what I'm saying. That,
Yeah. And we're not proposing there to be any.
So that is going to, parking will be prohibited in order to get in and out of that driveway.
Sure.
Okay. So my concern is that there is insufficient parking for the size of this building. The other thing I'm concerned with is emergency vehicle access coming in from North Main Street. We have no indication of what the turning radius is going to be to get around that so-called loop that you have described. We don't know what the spaces are required for emergency vehicles to get in on that property.
Sure. Okay.
The other concern that I have is when, in today's society, very few people go shopping in stores anymore. They order everything, and delivery trucks will be coming constantly to this location. So when delivery trucks come in here to make deliveries, there's got to be a place for delivery trucks to park.
I mean, that's right here.
Okay, you're saying that's right there in the front?
Yes.
Okay. That
So
to-
we come in and we can go out.
Okay, that's a concern that I have, is that we have room specifically for trucks that will be coming constantly making deliveries to that location. The turning radius for emergency vehicles to get in on the property is not shown on the plans.
Yep.
So I don't know what we can do to get any apparatus in on the floor. There is no provision here whatsoever for any visitor parking. None. So let me just talk practicality now. If I have a one-room apartment and I'm a single guy, and we're gonna watch the Bruins tonight, and I tell 3 or 4 of my buddies, come on over, we're gonna watch the Bruins and have a few brews, and 3 or 4 guys show up in single cars, they've gotta park someplace, and they're not gonna be able to park on this property. So what we're up against on a project of this magnitude on the size of that lot is not only parking for people that are going to be living there, which in my opinion is not big enough to start with. What are we going to do for people that want to go into this retail area, and what are we going to do for visitor parking that's coming there? The other thing to consider on this retail area is that this would require probably a variance for certain things that will go into that retail area. So if this was granted a variance to allow this to be built on that property, that does not cover whatever may go into that.
Certainly.
Yeah, so
Sure.
just be aware of that,
Yep.
that
Okay, sure.
even though you're saying it's a commercial area, that's going to be restricted again. So my concerns with this is the drop-off parking. If there's a truck parked where you have the drop-off and somebody comes in and has to drop off somebody that's in a wheelchair, shall we say, and they're going to park and get somebody out of a van, they got to wheel them into the building, up the elevator to their apartment. They could be there for 20 minutes or more.
Yep.
Okay? So the other thing that's really not good on this plan is there is only one elevator that's shown. And for an 80-unit apartment with one elevator is certainly not acceptable. My experience in the past has been, even in this building that we're in right now, if that elevator goes out of service, what are people going to do on the upper floors to get out of that building? I just think that whoever is designing these buildings has to realize that there's going to be times when that elevator may be out of service for whatever reason.
Certainly, yeah.
And that whole building can be shut down. The visitor parking, I mentioned, the retail space, I mentioned apparatus turning radius. I guess I agree with you that this property has sat there for a number of years. It really needs something to upgrade it. I am just not convinced that the plan that's before me tonight, as a board member, is the proper one for that location. I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed on this.
I was with the I guess maybe I had the misunderstanding. I didn't know that we were going to get into site plan issues here. I thought we were talking about the use and the use only, and that, of course, there has to be changes. And like I thought there were 2 elevators here, but there is not. I see that.
That's very important to this board.
Sure.
We can sit here and say it's a wonderful idea to put this beautiful building on this corner, but we need to know that that building is going to be a functioning building.
Sure.
And right now, from the plans that I've looked at here, it's not functioning. If you look in the basement area, where you're going to drive in and out of that driveway on Charles Street, there's actually parking spaces shown where the driveway is, where you go in and out.
Well, no, that's the other level. There's not in the basement plan.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's no parking spaces. It has complete access in here.
Well, I got number A1. I don't know what you're looking at, but it shows the ramp, which is 2.5 feet drop.
Oh, that's why these plans,
That's the plan right where your left thumb is. See the parking places that are right up against the door? Down the bottom on the right.
oh, this isn't the basement plan, I don't believe. The basement plan. That's the first floor.
Plan I'm looking at
I
is,
think he's thinking this is the upper level. See the street level? This is street level, what he's doing here. This is the basement right here.
absolutely, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Look at the driveway coming in from the side street.
Oh, you're talking about these right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took those out. I knew those were
Oh, we
completely
discovered it,
obsolete.
and now you've lost more parking. I think
Oh,
these...
no, my parking spaces, I've already eliminated those, so.
Okay, I'm done. Somebody else can speak.
Sir, what's the archways you see on what would be, it looks like floor one? If you can go back to the rendering in the front, the big rendering of the exterior of the building. I don't know where it is on there. See those archways down below? Are those open to go through?
Yes.
Like, is that go into parking?
Yes, but it doesn't go in only at this point right here. So it's just looking, and he's got plant material here.
Are there cars on the other side of that planting material?
Yes, on the other side, yes.
Okay. As the fire chief, I'm concerned about getting, you have a car fire in there, I gotta get my personnel in there, I gotta get an ambulance in there, I gotta get potentially a police cruiser in there. I don't know if you've, to speak to the chairman's concerns about the parking, I don't know if you've driven up North Main Street Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. The spot brings in quite a big business. You actually noted the spot on there.
Yep.
The parking situation on North Main Street is deplorable. North Main Street is quite a wide road. As the fire chief, I have great concerns going up and down North Main Street. Yep, and that place is hopping on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, to the point where we had a fire in the public storage building, and we couldn't get our apparatus in the parking lot.
Okay.
I know this doesn't pertain to you, but it does in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
The parking in the public storage space, we couldn't get our fire apparatus in there because there was so much overflow because there's no parking for the spot.
I see.
Where do you think that parking is going to end up when you take those other lots? That's going to go up and down Charles Street, which is not even...
Where the spot is going to go?
No. Where do you think the people are going to park? We have major parking issues there anyways. The chairman alluded to the middle of the winter.
Yep.
I allude to the middle of the summer when people are outside because they can't have an overflow. Now, that's an issue with, other boards in the city, but it is a reality. Charles Street, they park up and down Charles Street just to go into that bar or the club, the spot. I can't get fire apparatus down there with that, just on Charles Street. I mean, the chairman brings up the point of the situation right around your building. The Charles Street is my bigger concern because it's very narrow. They park on both sides. There might be no parking signs there. That doesn't mean they don't park there.
I see. I've never seen...
No, I don't expect you to, but I think, to the chairman's point, you have to understand our concerns about that neighborhood.
Okay.
And the impact, however many people, you have, what do you say, 68 two-bedrooms? So you have two bedrooms, 68 times 2 is, I'm not a genius in math, but we're talking over 180 people or so. Yep. When we look at the big picture now that are populating that building and the concern of the parking interior and on the exterior periphery roads, there are neighborhoods all across the street from here. That overflow parking will end up on Wyman and all those other streets. So just to kind of extend upon what the chairman's concerns are in the parking, I have to be concerned about getting fire apparatus around that neighborhood. That is a densely populated neighborhood that's a tinderbox at times, okay, with major buildings that we've had major fires in. So we're overpopulating an already populated neighborhood. I understand. I still don't understand the hardship, quite honestly, but just to extend upon what the chairman was saying, that's all. So I don't have anything else.
Well, maybe we should withdraw the article until we...
Hearings commenced, we'll come to a conclusion, and then there's methods by which you can amend this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
I'll just end up in my comment here, is that I don't have a problem with upgrading that corner. I think what we've heard tonight is that we are trying to squeeze way too much into that little tiny area. So now it becomes a development problem. Do you need 80 apartments to make this thing work? If it was cut back to 50 or 60 apartments, it might not work. That's your decision. Our decision is whether or not this is going to be negatively imposing on the neighborhood that's up there. We'd love to see that place developed up there. There's no question about it. We just, I don't know if this is the best plan for that. Okay? That's.
So, Mr. Chair, and just to be fair to the applicant, the planning board has not touched this. I have not seen this plan. We have not manipulated anything on it. So it's coming in rough. And it's going to be tossed through the gauntlet, getting all the way up to site plan approval, which it has not even started. So that is for the board's sake.
That's what was my understanding.
Right.
We were coming here just to talk about use.
Right. It is going to be subject to the planning board's method to get to site plan approval. So the board should know that.
Any other comments from board members? We good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Yes.
Standing to your right. Yeah. Chief, my name for the record is Mark Lawton, and I'm here to speak in favor of the proposal. Shanette Sam from Dorchester, who owns the spot, asked me to appear in his behalf tonight. I met him. He gave me a letter to hand deliver to the ZBA. If I could have permission to hand it to the clerk.
Yep. Can you summarize what the letter says? He's in favor of doing this, obviously.
Correct. He favors the application. I just want to say this by way of anecdote to the board. I love listening to Chief Galligan because he is the master. And having been born on a street called Turner Street, which you wouldn't know about, that was when my mother and father lived on the 3rd floor at 10 Turner. Very well acquainted with that area of the north side. And every criticism that the chief noted, and again, he is the master, I love to listen to him, as I'm sure the board does, is right on the money. I know that given some changes that are coming to that area, whether it's Mainspring or that corner, if this ever does happen, will be transformative changes as an entranceway to the north side of Brockton, to Montello. I love the idea, as does Shanette Sam, whose sliver of corporate life is right on the corner, the spot. So he loves the idea. Being a Brocktonian, being born in the neighborhood, I like the idea. Listen to the chief, because I would hate to see this thing not happen.
Thank you.
It's a great idea for my city.
Thank you.
Chief?
Thank you.
For your kindness?
And that letter we have.
Yes, thank you. Members of the board, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
All right, anybody else who wants to speak in favor? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. This concludes the public hearing portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open it up for discussion by board members. Board members.
I like the idea of the project, but I don't think the parking will support 80 units. That's my main issue with it.
I can kind of attest, again, the planning board has not seen this, so all the concerns that, of course, the chair has and the chief has, these are all going to be knocked around during that process with Deputy Fire Chief as well. So that neighborhood, again, the city has first right of refusal to the nearby Father Bill's when that gets improved. That whole section, as far as planning is concerned, is going to, kind of be resurrected. So this is a good first step in. You kind of have to believe in the plan a bit because more is coming. But for right now, these adjustments definitely need to be made. The elevators, the parking, all that will be taken care of through the planning board and that process that they haven't even started yet.
You know, that's one of the reasons why we suggest to go to planning before they get here. A lot of these things can be addressed in planning.
Typically, that's the first step, is go to planning board. So when they told us we had to come here first, I said, well, okay, it's because only use, that's what brought me here. You're only going in for a use permit. So originally, I didn't even have these architecturals attached to these drawings, because I thought we were just talking about use and comparing it to the zoning district. So all of these were, and then Rob said, oh, you gotta put they wanna know what the building is gonna be kinda like. So we had to put these buildings to it.
Understood that you've got a long way to go with it, and, you know, I think it's absolutely necessary to get, you know, some CPR into that neighborhood.
I think as a longtime Brocktonian, to see that neighborhood brought back to what it could be, what it once was, is an incredible thought. But
Do you know why the investment goes across Main Street in that location?
this was the shoe capital of the world for many years.
All right, I just got to interrupt a little bit. We shouldn't be doing this going back and forth. I'm allowing it because we're at the end of the evening, but we're strictly between the board.
But I think, to everyone's point, this is a great opportunity for the city, but too much. So many times, and I think we can all attest to this, people bring stuff before here with these massive ideas that don't fit that neighborhood in what they have. Scaling is one thing, and I think what is incredible here is they want to do something great with this property. The scaling is the issue, is my concern, and just so many people in such a small area, and the parking issues we deal with and we address on a regular basis, I think, in front of this board. I think those are the things we got to be the most concerned about. So too much, too much, too much. That's
I think, you know, to your point, I think we could probably scale it as a step, but I don't think that we should stop the process, but we could scale it back to a, you know, maximum amount of units with a stipulation.
Can we give them the option to withdraw and then come back after?
Nope. The hearing's already started. We're going to finish the hearing. If this is denied, they have other means of getting back to us, but they've got to go to planning before they can get back to us. They got to go to planning anyway.
Right.
So, the mood issue.
A motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stephen Lanus,
No.
Yolando Spinola,
No.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you got 1 yes, 4 no's.
The vote is 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The petition is denied. As a comment before we leave, I hope you take into consideration what you heard here tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, clerk. Thank you, board members.
Good luck.
Thank you.
That concludes all of the cases for tonight. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.